Welcome to the Peer Space. Essentially, this is something that has been running now for 3 years. It evolved from a dinner group, which I started out in Bulgaria, where I met Bob, who's in the room. And since the lockdown, it's evolved into these spaces for like more like virtual dinner meetups, if you like, without the food and drink. Um, and we ran the dinners sort of every month, and these have been running every week, if not every other week, since the lockdown. And the sort of flagship of format has become this sort of talk nights, where we invite a speaker along to sort of take the stage and do their thing. So it's an interactive hour. Now we're already into the sort of approaching the second third. So it'll be over to the speaker, who will sort of lead this middle section, and then it should open up later on towards the end into sort of questions and discussion, if you like. But I know Edwin's going to be quite interactive. So yeah, it is recorded. So this will end up on YouTube. If you want to hide your face or anything, it'd be a good time to now. Although actually, when Edwin's speaking, he'll be the one in speaker view. I just want to also say that I met Edwin when I got involved in probably the peer space that's been the most significant one for me in my life. There's been several that have influenced me, but I got involved in a global community of men. And Edwin was one of the lead trainers on a facilitation course I attended a couple of years back. And I would describe the experience of that peer space, that group, as life-changing, really, for me, in a way that probably no other peer space has been, although there are other significant ones. So I'm delighted to welcome Edwin, who is I think it's fair to say, it's a knowledge management guru, and looking forward to what he has to share with us about leadership, and I'm sure it'll be interactive. So Edwin, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Edwin K. Morris, and I am in the sunny world of Western New York State, and I am the leader and founder of a nonprofit here in the United States that does knowledge management capacity building with other nonprofits. So that's our mission. We're here to help, and we're here to help educate the general public on what knowledge management is. So the topic today is leadership. By show of hands, how many of you are leaders? All right. Is that everybody? All right. So I guess my talk is done. Okay, we're good. You're all set. You got the job. You're all set. You don't need anything else. We all know that's not true. This is a continual process, this leadership thing. And so what we're going to talk about today is I'm going to share 4 slides and a paper that I had written for a doctoral program that I was in at the time on leadership, and those will be distributed at some point today, but to include this PowerPoint. So what I want to do is I want to make this interactive. We're going to have some discussion, and this is my cat's tail. In case you're wondering what is on my desk, it's not a Cudamonde. No, it's a cat. It's not a raccoon. It's a cat. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go to the slide deck. What I want to do is talk about some parts and pieces of things that I find interesting in the world of leadership. I have been a leader in civilian life, military life, a lot of lives. I've started businesses, I've led companies, I've failed at companies, but I'm still plugging away. So Nordhaus defines leadership, and I want to get your input on this. What do you think? Defines it as a process whereby, is everybody seeing this slide? Everybody good? Okay. That's always the question of the day. Are you seeing anything that I'm showing over here? All right. A process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. And he relates leadership into 4 themes. It's a process. It involves influence. It occurs in groups. I guess you could lead yourself, but that's not as sexy as leading a group of people. But some leading yourself is part of this paradigm also. And leadership involves common goals. Out of that definition, is there anything that sticks out for you? Raise your hand if there's something that is like either spot on for you, you resonate with, or you have like, wow, where does that come from? You don't get it. Anybody? Quickly. Going once. It's like an auction. You don't raise your hand, you're not playing. Let's go. Yes, Sally.
I think what's very clear about that is that it doesn't have to be a specific institution or a formal group. It can be across informal boundaries. And I think that's what very much differentiates leadership from management a lot of the time.
You got that right, sister. I like the sounds of that. I mean, that is really a good observation. Anyone else? Benjamin, you're thinking. I see you over there, Benjamin. Come on. What do you got?
Let me listen first. I think, let me think about it, then I can tell you.
Okay, you think about it. All right. No pressure.
Okay.
All right.
The one that resonates to me is influence somehow. Of those ones that you put up, I think that great leadership is about being influential at some level.
Yeah, and the word influence has not really a powerful connotation to it, right? It's not, you don't think of as a domineering leader as being influential. You know, it's almost like it's kind of subtle, right? You're not really pulling out the big hammers to drive people into a direction. You're just trying to influence that behavior to get to where you need to go, right?
For sure.
So it's a lot of finesse. Yeah, thank you. Phil.
Yeah, number 4, leadership involves common goals. What comes to mind for me is something I learned many years ago, which was about creating a possibility for a group of people to step into so that you were all part of the same possibility. And causes a common goal.
So what I hear you say is that you're basically like setting the table and letting everybody come to eat without really telling them to go eat. You just kind of set the environment, you set the circumstances, and you're like, come on, everybody. And they kind of gravitate to where you wanted them to go without telling them where to go.
Yeah, to begin with, and then sort of steer things towards or ask the questions about that will bring people together to form a common goal.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you for that engagement and that input. So now we're going to go on to what the U.S. Army defined leadership. And I'm throwing out some definitions here because I want you to get thinking about how do you define leadership? It's like many things. Until you really talk about what that means, it can mean a lot of things. So leadership, the U.S. Army, the process, here again, a process, and just think of that in and of itself. A process is not finished. You know, it's a continual, it's a spiral of activity. The process of influencing people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. Now, why do you think I present this as another definition? What are some things that are sticking out of this one that's different from the first? Anybody? You'll get extra credit. Come on, you can do it. Sally, I know you're thinking about it. You're like, oh, I can do it. Bob?
I mean, you're talking here about motivation. You're talking about accomplishing a specific mission, which obviously is one of the key functions of a leader. You know, you have a task to achieve, and you have a team with which to achieve it, and you can't do it on your own, or you wouldn't have a team.
That's a hell of a good observation right there. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, not all leaders see it that way, unfortunately, as you probably know.
Thank you, Bob. Sally?
I think the definition here is very much a product of where the definition comes from. So it's an Army definition. It's within an institution. It's an institution that has very clear boundaries and very clear objectives. So the definition of leadership within the Army is probably more constrained and more specific, and needs to be because of the nature of the organization that's coming up with that definition.
Well said. And I want everybody to hear that again. Leadership, as most things, are dependent upon whatever container they're working in or organizational structure, right? Leadership will not be the same definition across all organizations. So that means as an independent person working in an organization, you've got just as much input of what a leader should be for that organization. And you call out these characteristics, I think is a good way to start setting a mission and a vision of what leadership should be for this company / organization group, right? Okay. So we've talked about definition. This is something that talks about what they consider the big 5 personality factors. So if you had to think of all the attributes, all the characteristics, positive and negative, of a person, and not just for leadership roles, not just those attributes that you think leadership is, but these are the top 5 when you're talking personality. So I throw this in there just to think about, just regardless of role, leader, follower, floater, whatever your role is, think about these 5 personality factors. How many of these do you feel are important if you were to say, yeah, if I wanted a leader, or if I was a good leader, or if I was a positive leader, I would want to have, which one of these would be most important to you? Which one of these attributes? Anyone can go. You got extroversion, openness, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and of course,
I would
a little neurotic. Yes.
I would say the one that jumps out initially is openness. Openness to many possibilities. To for great outcomes, you kind of have to be open to many possibilities.
Exactly. You're right. They talk about tendency to be informed, creative, insightful, and curious. Right. Mm-hmm. Those are the elements that create that openness, the ability to inquire and ask questions and think outside of the constraints, to be creative. Anyone else got any input on this?
I think Tusimi's got.
Okay.
Yeah, I also agree on openness, because a leader has to be open and always be creative, because let's say in a situation of something that should be done, a leader is always you always depend on him or her to think and find out the ways to sort out the problem. So I agree on openness. That's the first I choose.
Okay, thank you. When you were saying about your concept there of the openness, something that is not specific in this but is within openness is that there is a feeling of openness with the people you work with. Right? They're not afraid to approach you, is what I'm trying to say. So they're like, well, they're pretty open for discussion, so I'm going to go talk to the leader and see what you know what I mean? So there's part of that too, the openness, to be connectable and not push people away.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, Phil, what do you got?
Yeah, again, with openness, the thing that comes across to me is that with openness, with this tendency to be informed, creative, insightful, and curious, it's something that's infectious. So if you want to infect a group of people with enthusiasm, then those tendencies will do it.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's inclusive and as I say, infectious. If you're trying to create a cohesive group around an issue or a project.
Well, and that lends me to the quote that was part of the promo for this talk, was one I came up with while serving in Iraq as a soldier, is that good leadership is infectious, bad leadership is an epidemic. And that to me was an insightful piece from my experience as not a young leader, but a middle management leader for the U.S. Army at that point. So, you're right. I think there is an enthusiasm, and it can go negative too. I mean, you can catch the negative wave just as much as you can catch a positive wave coming out of an organization or a person that's leading that can affect everyone in the culture. Yep. Anyone else?
Yeah, I also think that what stands out for me is openness, because basically it focuses on leaving the people that you work with the autonomy to drive their own life in a certain way. But remember, you just give them a purpose and direction, a sense of direction of where you want them to be, and aligning them to the mission of the organization or the company, and as well as giving them the responsibility or the freedom, as well as the responsibility, because the more the responsibility, the higher the freedom, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that very much. And that giving of, you're basically trusting your people to do what they're supposed to do. And that trust can go both ways. And it's a buildable bond. Trust is something that can disintegrate rather quickly, and it can take time to build up. But if you're not aware of how much trust there is in the organization or the group, you're not really seeing everything that's possible. So thank you. Very well said. Yes, Sally.
I think there's a danger, and I've seen it many times in my career, to assume that extroverts are good leaders and good managers because they have those sociable, assertive skills, they have that charisma, they have that positive energy, which are all really important things. But I've also met some very closed, disagreeable, unconscientious, and highly neurotic extroverts who've made dreadful leaders, absolutely dreadful leaders. But that kind of personality can be very magnetic, and people are drawn to them, but they can't always follow through in terms of the leadership skills.
That's a great observation. And think about it this way. So if a group dynamic is such that the loudest and the most persistent person gets their way, that is not really a positive situation, because you're excluding everybody's voice that's not being, or that's either being squelched, or people are like, you know what, that guy's always talking, so just let him do whatever he's going to do. They don't. There's not an opportunity for bringing every voice in. So you have to be careful with that. You're right. The loudest and the most persistent is not always the best option. Yeah. All right, we're going to move on. This is a piece of 3 aspects that predict consequential life outcomes. So this was a longitudinal study, long term, to look at personality traits. Like if you were going to hire somebody that was going to be your 25-year employee, what are things you're thinking about that's going to be that long-term commitment and or productivity that you're looking for? So in this study, they looked at 3 things as an overall arching characteristics. Interpersonal character includes gratitude, social intelligence, and interpersonal self-control. So we're rolling these up into 3 major bullets. These are characteristics that they found that if you could see these are things that give you that trajectory of long term to see what that person may end up being like in the future. Intellectual character includes curiosity and zest. I love that terminology, because curiosity, if you've got folks that are like, you know what, I went to school 15 years ago, I'm good. I know everything I need to know to do what I'm doing, and I don't care about learning much more. That to me is a very uncurious mind. Now combine curiosity with zest. Who here can define zest for me other than soap? Somebody give me an idea what zest is to you.
That's almost like a passion.
Energy.
Say again?
A passion.
Passion, energy,
Yeah.
right?
Energy.
These are visible things. People can pick this up, right? If you've got no zest or a lot of zest, depending on how much caffeine you've had, it really is apparent. And, and I think of Winnie the Pooh, which is an old story and a cartoon and everything, but there was a character in Winnie the Pooh called Eeyore. Does anyone know an Eeyore in your world? And an Eeyore, if you don't know, an Eeyore in this character of Winnie the Pooh is somebody who's like, oh, I can't do that because I don't know how, or I can't go to the store. I got too much to do. Somebody that's always got an excuse, in my words. Somebody that just can't do anything ever. So think of that. That's an anti-zest. I would say that's a 0 negative zest on the scale. And the last bullet here is interpersonal character includes academic self-control and grit. What do you think they're talking about there? Grit, I think to me, grit is kind of similar to zest, but what's academic self-control and grit to you? What do you hear when you hear that?
I would say it's not, you're not showing off your knowledge and putting down your employees, and not this old philosophy that knowledge is power is just totally wrong.
Yeah.
But people still live by this.
I like that very much. Yeah, that sounds right to me. Anyone else or on any of these bullets? Anyone else that's like hot on something? Or
I know that grit has come up very strongly as the single thing that is associated with success. There's a big connection between those two things. So, successful leadership, and the self-control point. It reminds me of something I read recently in a similar vein around, it's more the conscientiousness side of things, isn't it? It's more like being conscientious. And this is also, it's almost like a character trait that's more important than things like intelligence, for example.
I think grit for me is, what comes to mind is tenacity.
Yeah.
But then there's a if you go a bit further along that scale, it can turn into stubbornness.
You're right. There's a very fine line here between arrogance and confidence, right? There's that fine line that people kind of step over sometimes and can step on some toes. You're right. Yeah. What I like about the grit piece to me is that it is resilience. It is the ability to just keep on going. What was Winston Churchill's quote? When you're going through hell, keep going. It's just that doggedness. You just keep pushing forward. Keep at it. Eventually it'll work, So these are some things to think about when you're looking at all the different options when it comes to what is leadership. What is a good work ethic? What are all these underlying personality traits, behavior traits that are important to you? Oh, and there's the dog. Cue the dog. Thank you. So now we're going to have an open discussion about what are the 3 topmost characteristics of a positive leader. What are they for you? And I want you to write these down. I want to take a few minutes. I'm going to mute here real quick, so that'll save you the barks. I want you to think of and come up with what are the 3 topmost positive leadership characteristics that you have either seen demonstrated that were effective or you do in your own practice. And we'll have a discussion after a minute. So I will mute. Or I can play background music. Do 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 tick dee tock tickety tock tock tickety tock tickety tock. 30 seconds, everybody. 30 seconds. Top 3 most important characteristics. Ten seconds. You have 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Ding, 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 ding. Time is up. Step away from your card. Step away, step away. I've been watching too much of that British baking show. All right, so who would like to go first and share their top 3? No zest in this room. I can see that. Come on. All right, Sally, let's go.
Right. So the 3 that I've written down are an approachable style, a collaborative approach to working with others, and a desire to empower one's team.
Well, I like all of that. That sounds positive. That sounds like a t-shirt. I think you're probably going to make a t-shirt with that on it. Who's next? Yes, Phil.
Okay, I put the ability to impart a vision, empathy, and being confident enough to show vulnerability.
What was the second
I
one,
like
Phil?
it.
Empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah.
And not showing vulnerability.
No, having the confidence to be able to show vulnerability.
So that last one I would summarize as what's being called now emotional intelligence, right? To be humble with yourself and not think you can just run the yard yourself and you're in charge and everybody has to do what you say. Yeah. You bring up some very, very interesting pieces of all that. And as you can see, just going by 6 answers already that were not the same, you could have a long list here overall than just top 3. Who would like to go next? Yes, Bob.
I've put approachability as Sally did. I mean, a leader has to be approachable. I've also put down the knowledge and the experience to be in the role that you're in, because the staff have to respect that you're giving instruction, orders, whatever that may be, and from a point where you know what you're talking about, or you will find out. You know,
yeah.
And the other thing is, I mean, when I've led my teams, I wanted my teams to work for me, not because I'm going to hit them with a stick. I wanted them, if I need overtime, I want to go to them and say, guys, I need your help. And I want them to do it for me, you know, not for the company. It has to be for me because I'm leading them.
So you want some buy-in, and you want to be able to have a shared mission, right? And that's what I heard with that last piece, is that you're like, come on, fellas,
together.
Yeah. All for one for all kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's a great concept. Yeah. Anyone else?
I'm happy to, if there's a pause.
Go,
Tusim, go, yeah.
Tusime. To see me. You're muted.
To see me, you're muted. Yeah.
I have 3 on my list. I have communication. I have self-discipline and visionary.
Tell me about the second one again.
Self-discipline.
Self-discipline. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Somebody that is not the do as I say, do as I do kind of thing, where you show you take care of your own internal house before you go external, right? You're self-disciplined. You're not just pulling things out of your ear. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Who's next?
I can go.
Okay. And then Benjamin.
Okay.
Go, Benjamin. Yeah.
There are a couple of things I could say, but I could just highlight these 3 I have here. Transparent. I believe a leader should be transparent, in the sense that when someone is transparent, people can really share their ideas with them. And also respect. You have to respect those ones you are leading. You don't have to do this, you must do it this way, you must do it that way. You are a leader, yes, it doesn't mean you are the smartest. It's just that there's something you have and others don't have, and others can actually have it too. And I have here being intelligent. Leader has to be intelligent. You have to think. You have to, because solutions are always demanded from you. You have to say something they are not thinking. And okay, that's a 3. I would say know more. You have to know more. You have to always know. So that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the constant learning, right? A constant what's the phrase? The lifelong learner, right? Somebody that's constantly engaged, learning, seeing new things, connecting new things. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
So the three that I could throw in, and this is based on different things I've read over time as well, but openness and humility are put together, like this ability to be humble and accept that it's not all about you. It's about, what others can bring, to the picture. And these are kind of in order. The second one is clarity and vision. Like, what is it? The focus, to have the focus. There's a clarity about the direction that you're going in. And then the third would be grit and determination. So the follow through, to have actually, we've had the previous talk about wind and bones, to have the structure of the focus and the energy to follow through as well, to move things forwards, and not give up, basically. Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Combine those things.
Well, I have not heard anything I disagree with, and the list is just getting longer. And I'm not hearing a lot of repetition. So I think there's just a lot. There's no simple answer, I guess, is the point I'm getting to. There is no simple answer in what a good leader or attributes are. Anyone else? Did everyone go?
I think everyone's done that part, yeah.
Okay. Am I missing anything in the chat? I love Benjamin's phrase from his introduction, still learning to be perfect. All right, yes. And I, on the other hand, don't use the word perfect, because perfect is, to me, a description that's illogical. So, yeah. So we've talked about those human characteristics, those things that we think or have seen that are effective, but we've also not talked about things in the negative light. So just around the table, what are some things that, everything we've been talking about are what I would consider positive traits. What are some of the behaviors you've seen and experienced that were like, oh no, that's bad, that's not good? Anybody?
Okay, Bob, yeah.
I've worked with a couple of bosses, and they've always had this style where they've got to add something to whatever you decide to do, whatever you input. And it's like they don't feel that they're doing their job if they don't come in with some comment on what always, and I don't expect for 1 minute that they realize that they're kind of belittling you to a degree if you take it seriously, if you just accept that's the characteristic of their style. But I've seen it in many different people where they've constantly got to add something to your inputs and your decisions.
Yeah, just to have a voice, just to have a voice at the table.
Yeah.
I think another spin on that is a sort of non-empowering, non-affirming mentality, where you're kind of you're not delegating, you're not giving someone the feeling of confidence about their own ability. You're just kind of maybe in a constant state of dominating and not allowing the kind of let's assume that the people that are working for you are junior or younger or whatever, and that they're not allowing them to come up, by being sometimes arrogant or aggressive, or all the different ways.
Domineering over, yep.
Overbearing, yeah.
I think people who are constantly broadcasting their thoughts are not engaging with people, and you see this often on social media. The people who get what social media is, which is to do with engagement, and people who use it as a broadcast medium.
Yeah.
So that illustrates
that one-way traffic, right? They're just they're projecting and throwing stuff out. They're not listening to anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Anyone else? Yes.
On the unmute button there. I think there's, I call it emotional incontinence, but where people And I think vulnerability is incredibly important. I think being emotionally intelligent is incredibly important. But I think particularly, and I've seen this in crisis situations or, really, really difficult situations where a leader needs to inspire confidence in their team and they're the one gibbering in the corner crying. It's fine to find times hard, but I think there has to be a veneer sometimes of control and responsibility and to inspire that confidence in your team.
Don't let them see you sweat, right? Let stand and breathe and don't look as scared as you actually feel. That does help. And it can go the other way too. Like you said, the cowering in the corner kind of thing, that does not evoke leadership much. Yes. Anyone else?
Simi, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I also think that what happens so much, especially in an African setting, is a judgment, especially from the big person in the room. They usually overlook others, especially the juniors or the young people, and they think they have nothing, to do with their conversations, and they just maybe become spectators of such meetings that are maybe making decisions over something that will, in the later, affect them. So I think that is not really something that is a good characteristic of a leader, and to some extent, I think that we should really take that even to any extent. But I think judgment itself is not a right thing, because everyone is created with his own potential, irrespective of how much they know, irrespective of how much they can input into something. They always have that idea on how they can improve a certain process.
So what I've seen happen in that regard, in specific to what he had just talked about, is the poo-pooing of the new guy or the new gal by some crony that's been around for way too long, that usually pushes somebody down and says, "Oh, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're new here. You don't know how it works here. You don't have enough history to have a voice or an opinion at this table." And that personality trait is definitely one to get rid of, because that will snuff out any good innovation and new thought, and it'll exclude a lot of people. Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else?
Yeah, me, I have something to say. One thing I have to add up is I don't like someone that calls themselves a leader always feels that they are always right, because even to the least of the people you are leading, they may have the best of ideas which they can share with you, and being transparent is one thing that you have to be, so that they can actually be free to always share their ideas too with you. So I don't really encourage leaders trying to feel that they know everything.
I would agree. There's a level of arrogance that will rub everyone or most people the wrong way. It'll create so much friction because of their delivery and their high and mightiness of, well, I'm in charge. And, even when they don't know, they will say they know, and make decisions without any input from anyone else. And that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. Thank you. How much time we got here, Neil? Where are we at for time?
We have about 5 minutes. So what I was going to suggest was, has anyone got a question or a comment about this theme? And otherwise, it's kind of getting to that wrapping up point where it's kind of, well, what's the big takeaway? What's the big takeaway from this? How can we go back out into the world as better leaders? Or
well, I'll plant the seed here on what I wanted from this, and that's really to plant the seed of awareness, as it's always good to get a reminder of some of this basic stuff, because as we get busy and as we continue to do whatever we're doing, it's these types of talks that are important to just resurface and refresh some things that you may need refreshing on.
Yeah, for sure. Has anyone else got a question or a comment or a takeaway from the session?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Edwin just last said. It's easy to, it's really good to be reminded of all of this. It's very good. I've got a lot from this. Thank you.
It's always interesting to see the overlaps in people's feedback and thoughts, and it's the group mind side of these things.
It'd be good to link up with people.
Yeah, of course, you can share your connection details in the chat. Any other questions or thoughts or comments before I just ask Edwin to wrap up? Yeah, go Sally.
I think the fact that there was lots of different things that came up in the top threes. There was a little bit of overlap, but not a huge amount, yet there was lots of head nodding going on. So just because it wasn't the thing that first came to mind didn't mean that we didn't all think it was valid. And I think that shows that leadership is multifaceted, it's complex. It isn't something that you can learn from a textbook. It's something that's born out of lots of experience and learning from other people as well.
Sure. Nicely put. So Edwin, is there do you have a final thought for us as we go back out into the world and try to be better leaders, and a takeaway that we can just something that we can just like think about as we go back to our lives?
Sure. I think, to me, it's best if you're responsible to yourself and for yourself first before you decide to think you're a leader. Take responsibility for yourself, and that's that self-discipline kind of piece. It's a lot of things, but you'll become a more authentic, and the more authentic you become, the more authentic your leadership is.
Great. Thanks very much, Edwin. Brilliant.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask something.
Go for it. Go on.
Okay, I wanted to say this. Every leader should know that they are not just being appointed to be 100%. Most leaders are just leaders because that position needs someone to be there, and they might be very good in one particular thing, and the people believe or think that when you are here, you could actually lead as well. So the point I'm trying to make is every leader should know that being a leader does not make you you are the boss and you have the best of my ideas. You have everything so good. No, that 2-year-old boy can give you wonderful ideas that could skyscrape your leadership. So that's what I want to say.
For sure. Brilliant. Well put. And just to finally say, I just wanted to quickly say that's echoing that point. The thing about humility, I think, is really key for me. That was just one of the things that I remembered. The very, very best leaders apparently do have a lot of humility, as opposed to thinking it's all about them. Edwin, is there a way people can reach you? Could you share your info in the chat? And then anyone that I don't share the chat anywhere. I've also shared a document that Edwin asked me to share, a PDF about leadership. So if you actually save the chat, I think that'll save that, but you may want to download it before you leave the call. Thank you again, everyone, for coming along. The next Peer Space is in 2 weeks, same time. It's with Martin Barnes, who is the man in this part of the world, the UK, representing Pitch Club, which is some of the guys here have been on Pitch Club. It's a kind of open forum for people to come and practice their pitches in a sort of safe environment, business pitches or whatever it is you're trying to pitch to the world. And he's going to be coming and talking a bit about how to use sketching to bring out your kind of inner child again, and to convey your topics. Is something he's quite into, let's say, and I'm sure we'll hear more about his whole world. So it's just past the hour. Thank you again, everyone. Save the chat if you want to save all the info. Thank you again, Edwin.